Sandra, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so happy to chat with you and just hear more about what's new in your business. But for anyone who hasn't met you yet, can you give a little intro to yourself and tell us a bit about what you do with No Sweat Nutrition?
Yeah, so I'm a registered dietitian. I'm based in Squamish, BC, Canada. And yeah, I run a private practice called No Sweat Nutrition. We help athletes, stress less about food and thrive in sport. Um, I have a special interest in working with endurance athletes. I've somehow become an ultra runner dietitian, which has been a wonderful experience and journey. And I've become an ultra runner myself. So I'm very much into running outside of my work. Yeah, so I kind of talk the talk and walk the walk, which is nice. Um, yeah.
Cool. So when did you launch your practice?
Yeah, so it was January 2024. So been almost 2 years.
Cool. And you're working predominantly with people in British Columbia, specifically athletes. Tell us a bit about the journey of choosing that niche. And was that even a journey, or is that something that you knew from day one that you were like, yeah, I'm doing a sports nutrition practice and that's it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, before I even thought about starting a private practice, it's almost like the niche found me, and that's what triggered starting a private practice. So, yeah, I'm obviously very involved in the running community in Vancouver and the surrounding areas, and I didn't have a private practice at the time, and people would always just come up to me and either want to work with me and be like, "Hey, do you take on clients? Can I see you?" And I'd be like, "No." And some people would even refer people to me without knowing, like they just knew I was a dietitian, and then they email me and say, "Hey, I just sent a few people your way." And I'm like, I can't see them. Like I work at the hospital. Um, so I definitely knew when I started my private practice that it was gonna be sports for sure. And in general, I knew I would lean more towards endurance sports, runners, triathletes. The ultra running niche really just kind of landed in my lap. And it's been so great. I love working with ultra runners. Basically, when I made the move from Vancouver to Squamish, my friend got me connected with the local running store, and they wanted me to do a talk on, running nutrition. And I knew the clientele was going to be mostly ultra runners because it's Squamish, everyone's trail running. Not a lot of people are gearing up for a 5K. So yeah, I kind of just had to become an expert in that. And then my clientele just really niched into, a lot of ultra runners, which is awesome. Yeah, so that's kind of how it happened.
Cool. You don't explicitly say that you only work with ultra runners though, correct? Through your marketing, your sort of general sports nutrition, but then people end up inherently associating you with that. And so you're getting more and more people in that specific area.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
didn't ever push that at all, but once I did some talks for that running store, I got a lot of clients through that. And then I realized how much I loved it. So I changed a little bit of the wording on my website to reflect ultra running, but even my marketing for Instagram is niche down mostly to runners. And there's a lot of ultra running trail content in there, but it can be applicable to marathoners and stuff as well. But I still get a lot of other athletes, which is
Hmm.
awesome. Some
Yeah.
variety.
That's such a cool example of how you can use your content to sort of dive deeper into the ideal client while still keeping yourself open enough to attract all of those other people too. Because we'll talk for a second, or we'll talk in a minute just about how your practice is growing and how you have practitioners now who work for you who are going to be covering some other areas of sports nutrition. But I love that. I think that's so fascinating. Now, I want to know too, when we were talking about you coming on the podcast and sharing a little bit, you had mentioned that, and I think the quote from your email was, you had never imagined yourself as an entrepreneur. So tell me a bit about that. Like, what was that moment like for you? Was there something, obviously you were getting people that were coming to you asking for this, but like, What was that moment for you when things shifted?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, definitely never once thought I would want to own my own business. I'm not sure why. Like, I think I just imagined my life being, I knew owning a business would be a lot of work, and I was leaning into simplicity, not getting out of my comfort zone. I just thought I want to work for someone else, likely at the hospital, not take my work home and call it a day. And then yeah, definitely people reaching out made me ponder, maybe I should start a private practice. But I honestly don't think I would have took the next step and really had the confidence to do that if it weren't for a couple really awesome resources. I mean, the Dietitian Success Podcast being one of them, listening to other people's stories and even people who just, I could see myself in, it
Mm,
made it seem more tangible. And then in BC, we have a really awesome BC dietitians community. We have like a Facebook group and there's a website and there's a lot of good resources that we have access to that can kind of help you get started. Like legal kit forums and things like that, and just people to bounce ideas off of. So I feel like those private practice Facebook groups really help. But I still didn't imagine I would love it. It was always just going to be a side hustle. Oh, just a little bit of extra income or something different than my hospital work. And then I think it just shifted naturally when I realized how much I loved it. I feel so much more fulfilled by my work with athletes. Um, and I love that I can be in the athlete space while still not training at a high level myself. It's such a nice way to stay involved in the scene and kind of live vicariously through other people who are at the peak of their sport. And um, so that's kind of the main reason. And then on top of that, it's so hard to deny the income potential and just flexibility of working in private practice. But I would say the full moment for me was my partner is Australian and he came over on a 2-year visa and then we met. So he's planning on staying here. But when we go back and visit, he gets quite homesick and he was kind of like, hey, I wish we could visit Australia multiple times a year or for a few months of the year. And I was like, at this point, I was in still 3 days a week at the hospital and doing private practice, but it was slowly growing. And I was like, why can't we do that? Like, obviously I'm in a very privileged situation to be able to just kind of make that decision, but I was like, let's do that. We still have to figure out what his career is going to be, but I was very motivated to take my private practice to the next level, leave my permanent position, just to kind of give us the life we want. And then on top of that, I just love it. So that's kind of that was kind of the aha moment that really motivated me.
that's awesome. And so let's talk about that because it's been pretty recent that you've made that switch into full time. So what was that journey like? How long did you run it as a side hustle before making that decision to take the leap?
Yeah, so it was just a few months ago. So I was doing it for about a year and a half before making the leap. And I started from part-time. I had kind of been in a part-time permanent, but was picking up casual work to be full-time. So the first step was dropping those casual shifts. So I had 2 days a week to do no sweat nutrition. Sometimes I would overwork myself and still pick up a casual shift. And then really leaving the point six was a huge decision. I thought about going down to a point four, so 2 days a week. Um, and then just I even applied for a couple 2-day a week positions and they didn't work out. And I had also, again, I moved from Vancouver to Squamish, so I was commuting to Vancouver and the commute was kind of killing me. And I thought, I think I can do this. I think I can leave the 3 days a week, still stay on as casual. And then honestly, it was meeting with you, Krista, when I was doing a bit of one-on-one business coaching, and you were like, you can go back to a job. Like there are dietitian jobs out there. I mean, the dietitian job market in BC, Canada specifically is booming. There's always job postings. Some places are even desperate for dietitians. So that was the big thing, was just realizing, wait, like no decision is permanent. I
Mhm.
can go back to a dietitian job if this doesn't work out.
Mm, yeah. Okay. That's such an awesome um I love that insight into just like what you were telling yourself during that point in time and how you were kind of coaching yourself through that decision. Um Tell me a bit. This question's gonna like feel like it's coming out of left field, but I want to talk about it because I know a lot of dietitians in the sports area deal with this and are concerned about this and are trying to actively navigate this. How are you in private practice? How are you navigating clients coming to you? Again, this is going to be out of left field, but I know it's important. How are you navigating dealing with eating disorder, disordered eating things as they come up as a private practice dietitian that's not necessarily linked with a clinic, and as someone who, that was not necessarily your specialty or focus area pre-private practice. What does that look like?
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't even think that question is left field because athletes are at such a higher risk for
Yeah.
developing eating disorders. It's more prominent in athletic populations. And even still knowing that, I feel like just with the lack of education around eating disorders in my schooling, I don't think I was expecting so many people to be coming through my practice with disordered eating and eating disorders. Um, One thing I wanted to make sure people didn't reach out to me specifically for that. So I, didn't advertise being eating disorder informed or anything on my website. And then if people were to reach out and identify as having the eating disorder or disordered eating, I just really wanted to get a network going and realizing where I could refer people. So I kind of just have a list of dietitians I can refer out. But then it started happening so often, and I realized people with disordered eating and eating disorders, especially athletes, they are really longing for a practitioner who is ED informed and an athlete. And
Hmm.
so I noticed people just really wanted to work with me, even when I would say, I'm not competent yet, I'm working on this. So it just really was something I couldn't deny. I wanted to be more informed in general. And then I thought that would be enough, maybe like take some continuing education. And then I realized really quickly, no, I need to be an expert in this. I need to expand my knowledge and skills because it is sadly so prominent. And I think it's so important for sports dietitians to be ED informed and or even just be experts in eating disorders because of how prominent it is, especially in the endurance athlete space. So yeah, I took a 1 year online training, felt like that wasn't enough. And so I reached out to a dietitian colleague and friend who I've been doing supervision with. And I've actually been going full force into the supervision. We've been meeting almost weekly. I've been investing a lot of time and money into this, but I think it's so important. And yeah, I'm really excited to, you know, kind of open my doors to more eating disorder clients. I've just been taking a few that have kind of come through referrals or have reached out, but I haven't started fully advertising it yet, for a few reasons. But I just kind of want to get going with a few clients first. And I'm quickly realizing how challenging, but also how rewarding that work is and how important it is in the sports field. But yeah, I think even with for other sports dietitians who maybe don't necessarily want to work in that space, you definitely don't have to, and it's not for everyone. But just having that network to be able to screen athletes, identify when it's coming up, and kind of refer out when it's above your scope.
Mm. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that because, and obviously I know this about you and I know you're doing all of these things, but I wanted to ask it because it's something that comes up a lot for dietitians as like a fear that stops them from doing the thing that they really want to do is the like, yeah, but am I going to be isolated? Am I going to be alone? What if I have a practice question? What if I, start to encounter something that I haven't encountered before that makes me feel uncomfortable? And I think you're just such a perfect example of someone who has just been resourceful enough to be like, I can solve this problem and still have my own business and still have my own private practice. And I can create those supports around me in the way that I need to. And I love this example, this very specific example of paying someone who has an expertise in this area to work with you and to help you. There's always a solution. And so I'm so happy that you shared that. And I think that's going to be so helpful for so many dietitians because we have a lot of sports people in this group. And also, I mean, realistically, for every area of practice, because this comes up for every area of practice. So thank you so much for sharing that. So Let's talk a little bit about now as a full-time business owner. And I know it's been, it hasn't been that long since you've made the jump, but like, how are you structuring your time now? Like, what does your weekly schedule look like?
Yeah, this has been a work in progress. I definitely was in that trap of working way too much in the business, seeing one-on-one clients as much as I possibly could in a week and not working on the business. And it was slowly catching up on me. I was working on the weekends or just felt unorganized. So I'm trying to be as best as I can with the schedule, but Mondays is kind of my, CEO or CEO day where I work on marketing or, professional development. That's when I do my supervision meetings. Yeah, so Mondays is kind of my day to work on things, which has been really nice because it kind of eliminates the Sunday scaries.
Mm,
Sometimes in private practice, if I just had a full slate on a Monday, I would be thinking about those clients on Sunday or wondering if I need to look at, something that I wasn't super familiar with. So it's nice to just sit down on a Monday and see what my week's looking like and work on a bunch of stuff on the business. It's definitely still not enough time. There is always something I'm learning as a business owner. There's always something you could be working on, so prioritizing that to-do list is super important. And I'm still developing some systems, some better organization systems and things. But yeah, that's what it's looking like now. So Mondays are my day, and then Tuesday to Friday, I see clients.
awesome. Okay, let's talk about marketing because that was obviously something we talked about a lot because with a transition to full-time practice, part of that transition is okay, we got to find some more clients. So marketing strategy starts to come into play. And I know, marketing wasn't the biggest focus before. And so we talked a lot about marketing strategy. So let's first talk a little bit about what has worked for you when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, I would say two major things have worked for me. For one, I invested in getting a website from a professional website developer from the beginning. I think part of that was listening to one of the DSC episodes about, how having a website is pretty important. Having something that you own that's not going to be affected by an algorithm or a hack or something like that. And so I definitely, like most entrepreneurs, I tried to do it myself at first and quickly
Hmm.
realized the time was not going to be worth the money. So I paid someone to do it. Shay with Design with Shay, she's so great. And to be honest, a lot of my referrals at the beginning were just coming from web search because she's just optimized it for SEO, for, we worked a lot on what kind of wording we want on the website to attract certain athletes. And then a big thing is word of mouth and just community. I'm lucky enough to have, yeah, a lot of people in the running and athletic community. And I would say the ratio of those referral sources, the web search and word of mouth, has changed a lot in the last few months. So for the first year and a bit of practice, web search was a really still the top kind of way people found me. A little bit in some directories as well. Some health professional referrals like physios and sports med docs, but word of mouth or friend didn't come up that much. And just the last few months, and it might be just being in practice for almost 2 years, you have time now for people to start talking about you. A lot of it has changed to friend or physician referral, physio referral, which has been really cool to see. So I want to lean into that a bit more. Yeah, one of the strategies I've been doing lately, just in the last few months in terms of marketing, is when a client tells me they work with a coach or even a physio or they were working with a sports med doc, I get their name. And if it's someone I don't know about, I just ask the client's permission if they're okay that I reach out and say that I heard about them through this client. We don't necessarily need to talk about their case or anything, but just for me to say, hey, I'm a dietitian. I love working with this type of athlete or this type of thing. Yeah, so really trying to work on getting a list of sports med docs, coaches, physios in the surrounding area and reaching out to them. And yeah, so leaning into more the word of mouth and way.
Cool. And have you found Instagram and social media has worked for you for actually getting clients?
When people reach out and fill out the form of like, how did you find me? Not a lot of people put Instagram, though I do think it's a nice landing page for people
Hmm.
to learn a little bit more about me. They have the website, but then they can also take a peek at the Instagram. It's nice because you see more videos of me and my face, and my personality probably comes out a bit better on the Instagram. So I don't think people have found me on Instagram, but I think seeing my content every now and again, you start to to see my approach and the things I like to work with. And one of my goals is to lean into Instagram a lot more. I would love for my page to be kind of a source of evidence-based nutrition info, somewhere where people can just go and learn. Um, yeah, just haven't really had the time, but that's definitely one of my goals for 2026. So that's how it's been kind of working for me. I think it's just a nice supplement to the other forms.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about growth and hiring other dietitians because that's something we've talked a lot about recently too. Tell me, what is it that has prompted you wanting to hire and start to outsource a little bit more? And then what has that process looked like for you so far?
Yeah, so my partner and I really wanted to take an extended break from work to travel, before settling down and having kids, kind of something we've always wanted to do. And so the thing that prompted me to hire dietitians was like, hey, I am getting this steady flow of clients. Instead of just shutting down my practice for 5 months, I should get someone to take over my clientele. And then working with you, in one-on-one business coaching and kind of changing my mindset along around some things, we were like, why does this need to be just for the 5 months? Why can't we hire some dietitians and then work a bit more on marketing, get more clients coming in and have them stay on? And I love that idea because I love the idea of having a team, some people to bounce ideas off of. And in this process of hiring dietitians and putting out the job posting, so many other dietitians are craving that. So many people said that they were so excited to apply because of the team environment and the mentorship I would be able to provide in terms of sports nutrition. So that's been a really cool process. So the travel prompted it, but then kind of changing my mindset to be, a bit more of a growth mindset, has kind of prompted thinking about it just being, a growth phase in general without the travel.
Hmm. Um, and what are your plans for how to navigate that while you're away? Like, how much time are you going to still spend in the business versus being fairly disconnected and just kind of letting your team roll?
Yeah. So I'm not going to be doing any one-on-ones with clients. So that will be nice. And then I'm hoping my number one priority will be supporting the team. You know, there's some people that need a bit more sports nutrition mentorship than others. So I'm going to try and do as much as I can before we go. We're going in January. So um, I'll be supporting them, answering any questions, putting out any fires, whether that be tech stuff or anything. And then I really want to market a bit. So right now I'm not spending a lot of time marketing, so I'd love to even just do a few hours a week. I think that can go really far.
Hmm.
So yeah, working on some Instagram, some blog posts, again, keeping those connections. And then certain times of my trip will be a little bit more flexible than others, and I'm hoping to still do some webinars. And then I also am going to be offering a messaging subscription. So for current clients, they're going to be able to message me if they'd like. Maybe they have a race coming up and they want to bounce some ideas off me, but they don't need an actual session with one of my dietitians. So that will just be for current clients. So I'll still be quite busy. Definitely going to need to be having my laptop with me and working a bit, but I think that'll be nice. I mean, when you're gone for 5 months, it's not like every day needs to be jam-packed with activities. So I think it'll be a nice balance. And yeah, I'll be learning as I go because it's something I've never
Hmm.
done before. But I think without that one-on-one client load, it'll free up a lot of time.
Hmm. I think what I love too about the concept of hiring that a lot of people don't think about is like, it doesn't have to be something where you are promising someone a part-time or a full-time income, right? Like, it can be just a as simple as bringing someone on as a contractor to see one or two people a week, and then that role can grow as your business grows. I also think the other really cool thing too, and I don't know if you can hear my dog is dreaming in the background, so he's doing like a yelpy yelp. It's so funny. Um, but it also allows you to like spread your wings a little bit as a business owner. And what I mean by that is it can be just like such a beautiful leverage point to be able to, number one, be able to see under your practice umbrella, people or conditions that you yourself don't necessarily work with, but you have team that can. Expand your reach. So hiring dietitians in other areas of Canada, or if you're in the States, other areas of the States to actually be able to expand your reach beyond your province or your state. And like you're saying, be able to give you time back to be able to spend on actually growing the business because that is such a critical point in business ownership, right? Is when we realize, oh, I'm so deep in my business that I'm actually not taking the time to grow this business. And if I don't do something about that, then this business isn't going to grow. So
Yeah.
I love that that's been the journey for you and that's kind of how you're approaching it. And I mean, obviously the trip has prompted that, but I think it'll just be so cool to see how your practice grows and changes over the next year. If you look back on the past year, like what would you say you're most proud of in your business?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say, hmm, I mean, I'm really proud of myself for taking that leap to leave my full-time position and go all in on no sweat nutrition.
Yeah.
But more recently, I've honestly, yeah, I've just been really feeling really proud of how much time and money I've invested into being more eating disorder informed. That's been kind of the most rewarding thing. Um, yeah, I'm proud of myself for kind of going into that uncomfortable area because, like I said, it's challenging and it can be scary, but it's just it's been so awesome to kind of take my education into my own hands and source it myself. Like I always just thought the only way I could expand was if I did courses offered through, the health authority or maybe I might have to sign up for a master's degree or something, but it was kind of cool to just be like, hey, I can pay someone who has expertise and grow my expertise. And it's been an exhausting process and like I said, time and money intensive, but super important. So I'm proud I'm going into that area because yeah, it's not like it comes naturally or anything, but I think it'll be really important. So yeah.
Cool. Love that answer. What do you feel like because obviously you've been in the DSC world for a while. You've been a DSC member for a long time, even before we started working together one on one. What do you feel like have been some of the biggest aha moments for you over the course of that journey and being in our world and even you and I working together?
Yeah. I would say, like I said, listening to some of the episodes, especially on my commute when I was commuting to the hospital from Squamish to Vancouver, just yeah, hearing people's stories that seemed like me, like kind of that classic story of starting out as a dietitian, not knowing what you want to do, working at the hospital, and just hearing other people have nerves as myself. Like I can't remember what episode it was, but someone said, I remember I was so nervous for my first client. And they're now this full-fledged private practice owner. Like I can't remember who it was, but they have a huge
Mm-hmm.
brand. I'm just thinking about her being nervous for her first client, just like I was. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that was a huge aha moment. I remember that, yeah, vividly. Um, yeah. And then just kind of getting some tangible skills. Like I remember my discovery calls were just a little bit awkward at first. I didn't really have a plan. So, and then, looking into more about that, listening to the episode on discovery calls, just kind of realizing that there's systems in place that other people have, figured out in this space, and just being able to tap into all those resources has been super helpful. Um, yeah, and then just realizing it's kind of nice, especially with um, now that I'm in practice for a little bit longer, um, having people reach out for a second time around. Like sometimes you just work with someone and you're kind of not sure, especially if they're hard to read, you're not sure if they found it helpful, and you have some negative thoughts about whether you're really making a difference. And then especially when you get someone say, "Oh, so and so recommended you," and you're like,
Mm,
"Oh, I remember that client," or clients are now reaching out for a second time around, like they saw me last year, but they want to work on things again. I feel like that's been just been kind of an aha moment of, okay, I'm making a difference in people's lives. People like working with me. You just have all these, sometimes you just have these negative thoughts as
mhm.
a private practice owner, and just being a dietitian in general, just wondering and worrying if you're making a difference. So it's been nice. Yeah, even just getting emails from people after a race, it just warms my heart. I love it. So that's been a nice moment too.
So cool. So what's next for you and No Sweat Nutrition? What are the future plans looking like?
Yeah, what's next? So, I mean, after the traveling, like I said, I would love to just keep the team that I'm going to be hiring on. I mean, my hope is that they're enjoying working with my clientele and working as a team. And then hopefully just expand my marketing strategy so that I can start taking on a caseload again. Like I said, I really want to open my doors more, you know, I guess strategically for people with eating disorders and disordered eating, so taking on more clientele there. And then, as a business owner, I just always have ideas and things I want to do. I mean, we've been working on this a little bit too, but I have like an ultra race nutrition planning and a spreadsheet package that I'm still working on. It's kind of taken a back seat with all the stuff going on, but I really want to launch this ultra nutrition race planner. And then after that, I feel like there's so many other ideas. I'd love to do a group program. I think it'd be really awesome. Just because working in private practice with a niche, you kind of start to see the same stuff comes up again and again,
Mm.
and you kind of start to see a pattern. You're repeating the same advice, and it would be so nice to do some sort of cohort of people, maybe for a 6 weeks before your first ultra or before, the Vancouver Marathon or something. I would love to do something like that. Um, yeah, the options are endless. I really want to have more resources for athletes, do a bit of recipe development, kind of more for like sports nutrition products and stuff, just because they're so expensive. I think there's a need for, homemade drink mixes and gels. Those are the kind of things that are on my mind now. And then in June, when I'm done traveling, I'm going to be taking on a couple students from the University of British Columbia. So I'll be doing a preceptor role with that. So lots of exciting stuff. Um, yeah, we'll be able to do it all at once, but I just have endless ideas. I feel like anytime I'm just on a run or just even
Mhm.
lying in bed, there's a new idea I have of some sort of thing I want to offer my community.
I think that's honestly the best part about entrepreneurship is just being able to have those ideas and just do them. There's nobody telling you you can't, you can just do them. It's the best.
Yes.
That's awesome. And I also just want to touch on something that you said there because I think sometimes there's sort of a an implication that having a more like local business or, being confined by the boundaries of your province because of just dietetic practice requirements is restricting. And I love what you said around like dreaming about doing a group for something like preparing for the Vancouver Marathon. And it's like, that is so cool. And there's still so much opportunity and maybe even more opportunity for just like depth and community when you're local and you're like helping all of these local people, work towards a common goal or a common objective or whatever. And you're doing it like in your community. And I just think that that's really cool. And I love that you shared that idea because I think a lot of times we have a bit of like a cookie cutter perspective of like, what is a group program? What does that look like? But it's like there's so many variations of what that can be. And that would be so fun.
Yes, I
Ah,
love I love that idea.
that's awesome. Okay, where can the audience find out more about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, so my website is a really good spot to find me. It's nosweatnutrition.ca. And my Instagram is at nosweatnutrition. I also have a personal Instagram at Sandra Kilmartin. And those are the best places.
Awesome. And you can follow along on Sandra's ultra running journey, which is highly fascinating. And she's an incredible runner and she's just gotten into ultras and you're already incredible at ultras. And so it's always very mind-blowing for me to watch that. And so you're an amazing follow, very entertaining.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Thanks for joining me, Sandra.
Thanks so much, Krista.